This is one of Doom's most novel community creations, and you have to try it out for yourself to truly understand what makes it so unique. Bloom features an original soundtrack, 8 maps, 1 secret level, 2 playable characters, 55 new monsters, and 4 brand new additions to Doom Guy's arsenal. What is Bloom? It's a total conversion mod for GZ Doom that takes elements from both Blood and Doom, then slaps them together to create a gothic biomechanical experience.
Wow, this promises to be fun.
Everything in this mod is a hybrid between the 2 games, even the soundtracks. Here, have a listen. Quite frankly, the music may be the best I've ever heard from a Doom mod. The amount of headbanging I was doing must have cost me more brain cells than I can afford to lose, because the further I got through the game, the more confusing the levels were. Before I get into detail about the maps, you must first know the backstory behind Bloom. A decade after the events of Doom 2, Cabalco take over UAC facilities to build their own portal generator. And because they probably have no idea what they're doing, they open a portal to the Void, a fragmented universe merging the Blood and Doom timelines. Cabalco try to take over the army of Hell but fail. Instead, they created their own monsters by combining Hell's demons and Cabal forces, forming hybridized abominations. But it's not all bad, because Caleb is here to join Doom Guy on a mission to put things right. So with that out of the way, like I said, everything in this mod is a hybridization of the 2 games, and the levels are no exception. In all the maps, you'll come across familiar areas from both games' levels. That, however, doesn't mean that the levels aren't original. There's plenty of creativity that went into crafting each section of the Void. It'll truly feel like you're traversing through a fragmented and crumbling dimension, like this universe wasn't supposed to be, and it's bound to break down. This is obviously due to the aesthetic and map design, but for me mostly it was how the map events and teleports would play tricks on my mind. The phone is ringing. Hello? Hello? Oftentimes, switches and doors will act as teleports into new locations and ambushes. And as you can tell, things can sometimes get confusing between what switch opens which door, and thankfully, a text pops up to tell you what's changed on the level, and keys are easily distinguishable. While most regard map 6 as the highlight, for me it was map 7. When you think you've been the map at the exit, you hit the switch, then the music stops. You hear whispers saying, you're caught off guard, so you try to get out, but the door won't open and a bunch of morons spawn. The door opens, this time it's a switch. Finally, maybe now I can leave. No. The lighting goes dark and red, then sirens go off. You go back and hit the other switch, and blood starts pouring in. You think you're about to drown, but going under, you see that the door is open now. You rise up for air, hearing that pounding beat. You arrive at the Silent Hill-like section, and it's filled with more morons, but now they're all mutating into monsters. That whole sequence was haunting. And also, on this map you get acquainted with the Sloth, a horrific clown and cyber demon hybrid. Finally, you fight the weirdest boss in the entire game. Pretty sure that's an overgrown baby naked and wielding a minigun. Spoiler alert. Map 7 also holds the entrance to the secret level Map 9. Secret levels are usually just a shortcut or a small bonus, perhaps a funny reference, but in Bloom, it's worthwhile, short and sweet. After you've beaten Jojo, head back underground and swim your way to the House of Thon. On this map, you'll fight a boss from Quake. This is perhaps Bloom Team hinting at their next Doom Total Conversion mod. It's a pretty easy fight, especially as Doom Guy. Map 8 is a boss rush of sorts. You'll be fighting 90% of the bosses that come with the mod. It's kind of a bloody remaster of all of Doom's boss fights. Overall, the levels are very dynamic, and the mod succeeds at making the Void feel alive, like it's got a mind of its own. Caleb's arsenal hasn't changed much, aside from including 2 new weapons, a revolver and a single shotgun. However, I haven't played Blood before, so playing as Caleb was a new experience to me. His arsenal is so diverse with unique weapons like the voodoo doll, dynamite, And the Tommy gun, which has such a brutal spray and pray alt fire.
Here's Johnny.
And just being put in the shoes of this undead cowboy felt so badass. But you know what's even more badass? Caleb's berserk power-up turns him into a werewolf. I hear this was supposed to be a feature of the original Blood, and that just shows how much effort Bloom team put into making this mod. But you know what's even more badder-asser than that? Doom Guy's UAC Tesla Cannon. It can fire energy bolts, beams of energy, and when you run out of ammo, you can use it as a melee weapon to stun monsters. And by the way, monsters have a specific animation to play when being electrocuted, making this weapon all the more satisfying to use. Moving on to the UAC Frost Gun, which can turn monsters into popsicles, and the UAC Flamethrower that can shoot fireballs and throw flame. If you're still not impressed, Doom Guy can now use the Akimbo power-up. You'll also be able to toss grenades using the assigned hotkey. All of Bloom's levels, new toys, and features wouldn't be as fun to experience if it weren't for the impressive hybrid bestiary.
I'm putting my foot down!
The story is only as good as its villain after all, and the sprite work on every member of the roster is outstanding. But those aren't just reskins of pre-existing monsters, they also come with their own attack patterns and mechanics. Here's some of the cooler ones. The Gargovile is a Gargoyle and Archvile hybrid. They will do their basic Firestorm attack, but now they can fly, and if you're too close, they'll claw at you. The Hound Knight of Hell is a Hellhound and Hell Knight hybrid. They can switch from a bipedal fighting stance to a doggy-style fighting stance. The Zombaron is a zombie and Baron hybrid that can sink into the ground and ambush you. The Deep One is a mix of an eel and a shotgun guy. They can swim. One of their variants wields a cryo gun, and the projectile splits on impact. The Cyber Chiog can fly, and it can protect itself with its wings. Those are just 5. There are 50 left for you to encounter personally. Some of the monsters have unique death animations. Take for instance, the Zomvile. They just rip their head off, toss it, wander around aimlessly, and then... Bloom isn't an easy game. I'd go as far as to say it's harder than both games it meshes together. Movement is very slippery, and the threat of falling off the map is present in all levels. That's not the only way a level can kill you. You can drown if you stay underwater for too long without a diving suit. There are also fire traps on some levels that aren't easy to predict. Enemies take a bit longer to get used to due to their new patterns. And the final bosses are no joke either. Overall, combat is just a lot faster, and it requires you to always be on your toes. The mod nails down the vibe by combining the voxels, texture detailing, skybox lightning, ambient fog, and atmospheric sound effects. Everything comes together to give you this special feeling that you'll only get when playing Bloom, which is an impressive achievement. It's not easy to combine elements from 2 games into one and still create something that feels original. If, like me, you're impressed by the Bloom team efforts, why not check out the next project they're working on, Voidwalker.
That's all, folks.